Okay, folks, we are going to go ahead and get started. A little bit of a small crew today, but that's okay. You guys will get some individual attention, right? For those of you that are new to our webinar series, my name is Mike Walker. I'm the president of the Voluntary Benefit Shop. We do this every month with a different topic, usually wrapped around long-term care, life with long-term care trends, and that type of thing. This is our monthly voluntary benefits webinar series. So, folks, this is being recorded. If you want to access anything, later on down the road, you'll be able to do that. You can access the recorded versions on our website. In addition, folks, you can enter questions into chat, and you can also, we'll allow you to periodically unmute and ask questions as well as we go. So with that said, let's go ahead and kick us off here today. So just a little bit for those of you that are maybe new, don't know the Voluntary Benefit Shop, don't know me. The Voluntary Benefit Shop, guys, all we do every day is help organizations implement these life with long-term care solutions that we'll talk about today. That's all we do. We have a very specific process that we utilize for implementing this program that leads to really, really strong results. In fact, our results are 5 times the industry average results in total enrollment for this plan. And we'll talk a little bit about how we do that today. This is my contact information you see up here. So if you're not, already connected to us and you have, a case or a program, or you want to talk about our services, feel free to reach out to us and we can start that conversation. So today's topic is your competitive edge, monetize life with LTC like a pro. And really, guys, we did this because we get brought in a lot of times too late. Like we get brought in a lot of times by a consultant or an agency when they said like, hey, we've tried life with LTC and, we just didn't get the results that we thought we would get, or it just wasn't profitable, or we didn't hit participation. We hear that, a lot sometimes when we come in kind of after the fact. And so what we're going to talk about today is, how you make this work, and we're going to show you some examples of making it work. A little bit of background on us, folks. We've been around since 2013. We're based here in Haverty Grace, Maryland, and we bring these life with long-term care solutions to over 3,000 clients throughout the country, all shapes and sizes of clients. We're carrier agnostic, so we're working with all the carriers that have these life with LTC products. We secure industry best underwriting offers for these products. Our underwriting offers are really the best in the country for these products. That's particularly important in that small to mid-size market. Because of course, with a large group, pretty much anybody can get a good underwriting offer. But in that small to mid-size market, our underwriting offers are, really, untouchable. And what we're going to do when you have a case that you're going to look at is we're going to go out to the marketplace, secure proposals, apply those block underwriting offers, and come back to you and the client with a due diligence report and a recommendation. So you're going to be able to very transparently see what might be the best fit for that particular client. Now, before we kind of get to some of the tools and resources and ways to really make life with LTC work, for those of you that are new to this topic, I wanted to just frame a couple of things for you. Number one, it's very important to understand that these life with long-term care, these hybrid products, have been undergoing explosive growth for a few years now. The growth on these products has been 20 to 30% year over year, each year for the last 3 or 4 years. So tremendous growth. But I think the more interesting statistics on this slide are the consumer attitude statistics from Eastbridge. And so if you look at these, there's some interesting things here. You see there 36% of employees say that they wish their employer offered long-term care. But the interesting thing is that generational mix, right? It's not just the Gen X's and the boomers. And you would expect those of us that are, I'm Gen X, you would expect us to be in tune with long-term care. But look at the numbers from the Gen Zs and the millennials as well. So very, very broad appeal of this type of product. 29% of companies say they intend to offer long-term care in the future, and 51% of employees, when surveyed, said that they would be interested in purchasing it if their company offered it on a voluntary basis. So a lot of need. And then, or a lot of want, I should say. And there's a lot of things driving this conversation around the country, right? You have the aging population. You have the fact that most people aren't really prepared for long-term care. In fact, don't even know that they need to prepare for long-term care. You have the the conversation that's starting with state-specific payroll taxes. We're not going to go into that today, other than to just know that does drive some of the conversation. The fact that there's not really much of a standalone long-term care market anymore. And of course, these Life with LTC products have the preferred underwriting. And then, of course, as more companies do it, more and more other companies are going to want to, fall in line and offer it as well, just to keep their benefit package competitive. Now, a couple of statistics here on, just kind of, the concern, what's driving this desire for long-term care. And here's a couple of stats for you. 70% of us after the age of 65 will need LTC services. 20% of us will need those services for longer than 5 years. And then here's a snapshot of costs, folks. And these costs continue to go up from $78,000 for in-home care annually to, up to $130,000 for a private room in a nursing home. And in your state, it may be higher than that. These are national average stats. So certainly a big cost for people that's out there. And these Life with LTC products have become the way that organizations are really addressing this LTC need. And again, if you're new to this conversation, let me just give you a quick snapshot on how these products work, and then we'll jump into some of the case studies and do's and don'ts and things of that nature. So a couple of things on these product structures is, again, remember, they're a combination of life and long-term care all combined together into one program. So here's kind of a general product structure. Top left-hand corner, the plan has a death benefit where if I have this plan and I pass away, it's just going to pay my family that death benefit, just like you would expect life insurance to work. Whether I ever need long-term care or not, my family's going to get that. Top right-hand corner, there's a terminal illness component, and it's going to just advance me 75% of my death benefit right away. The remaining 25% would be paid to my beneficiary when I pass. And then long-term care, bottom right-hand corner. Now, this percentage may vary depending on the carrier, but in this example, we're saying that it's going to pay 4% a month of the death benefit for up to 25 months of receiving care. And then after 25 months, it's going to kick in with an extension of care, which is going to extend my long-term care benefit for an additional 25 months. So a total of 50 total months of potential long-term care payments. And then also, when I pass away, it's still going to pay the full death benefit to my beneficiary, regardless of, even if I access long-term care. Typically on today's product structures, it's not going to reduce that death benefit. So that death benefit is going to stay, full when I go through that situation. So that's how kind of the general plan structure works. And so to put some real numbers to that, and then we'll jump into, some case studies here. If I choose a $100,000 plan and I pass away, it's just going to pay my family the $100,000, just like you would expect. Top right-hand corner, if I'm diagnosed with a terminal illness, it will advance me $75,000 right away. The remaining $25,000 would be paid to my beneficiary when I pass. Long-term care is going to give me 4%, or in this example, $4,000 per month for up to 25 months. After 25 months is exhausted, it's going to give me $4,000 a month for an additional 25 months. And then even if I pass away during that or at the end of that, it's still going to pay my family my full $100,000 death benefit. So you can see with kind of the typical product structure out there in today's market, if I have a $100,000 plan, I can actually receive $200,000 of long-term care, plus my family can still get the $100,000 death benefit for total benefits potentially paid of $300,000. Okay, and that's very, very appealing to people when you go through that. Now, in general, this is what underwriting offer is going to look like. It's going to look like, about $200,000 of life, $400,000 of long-term care guaranteed issue. They can certainly go above that with some health questions. And then for spouses, there's some level of guaranteed issue. It may be higher than this. It may be lower than this. It really just depends on the size of the group and that type of thing. Now, when we work with the consultants that we work with, around the country, we basically, from a projection standpoint, we project that they're going to earn about $500 per participant in this type of plan. So again, if we do a group and there's 10 participants, that's going to generate about $5,000 in comp. If we do 1,000 participants, that's going to generate about $500,000, in comp for that particular person or for that particular agency. Let me show you some recent results here. So, all different types of organizations. These were all cases actually from the month of April that we enrolled. And so you can see, here anywhere from, a 5,000 person mortgage firm to a 280 person bank, the type of results that are received and the type of comp paid to the consulting or the broker firm at the, because of that enrollment. Here's some additional, results anywhere again from blue collar trucking company to, property management to private schools to defense technology to credit unions. So you can see across industries, across blue collar, white collar, we tend to get, really, really high results. We generally fall into that somewhere between, 20 or 15 to 30% enrollment range, which is much higher than industry average. And I'll show you a couple just specific studies here, and then we'll jump into some of the tools that we utilize. So here's the mortgage firm, about 5,300 employees, 517 enrolled. People say that mortgage firms are tough because they have a lot of salespeople, and salespeople can be tough for this type of product. But what we found with this particular firm is right around 10% participation, high premium per participant, so about $715,000 in premium, which generated about $286,000 in comp, to our broker partner. Now, here's a municipality. Municipalities are usually really stable business. Here's a city government, about 420 employees, 94 enrolled, which generated about $114,000 in premium and $45,000 in comp to our broker partner. Here's a financial services firm, high incomes there, 75 enrolled, $220,000 in premium and $88,000 in comp, to our broker partner. And here's a pharmaceutical distribution company, 230 or 49 enrolled for $55,000 in premium and $22,000 in comp to our broker partner. And one last one for a smaller one, in case most of your cases are under 100 lives. Here's a 90-person private school. Sometimes people think schools won't be good candidates for this. Well, we had 27 enroll for $48,000 in premium and just over $19,000 in comp to our broker partner. Now, here's some do's and don'ts for implementing life with long-term care. Number one, always introduce life with long-term care off of cycle. Okay, so not during core, always off of cycle. And folks, I got to tell you, we get a lot of requests to do this on cycle. Folks are like, yeah, we want to do it. We want to do it with our next open enrollment. And we have acquiesced a few times, and participation is always without exception. Okay. And so we always do it off of cycle. At this point, like we really don't make exceptions for that. We always do it off of cycle. And that's because this product is one that takes a whole lot of education, and it just is too much to try to do it during core, and it needs a separate engagement campaign. So always off of cycle. Number two, my advice is never attempt to put this policy on their BIN admin or HRIS system. We have learned that from experience, folks. We have worked with the carriers to have this put on ADP, bSwift, UKG, et cetera, and it just never works well. Those BIN admin systems are not really equipped to handle the EOI process. They're not equipped to handle the stacking of policies or ongoing changes. So even though it may work year one, it doesn't work without limitation, and it does not work in subsequent years. Okay, there's so much ongoing maintenance that the client ends up like not being happy with the experience. So we have for the last several years have just had a very firm stance that we do not put it on their BIN admin or HRIS system. Even if the carrier says it will work, it won't work in a good way. And it's also going to negatively impact your participation because of the restrictions that come along with it, from product structure and guaranteed issue, et cetera, and things of that nature. So never put it on their BIN admin. Always do it off of cycle. The third thing that's super important is always have special engagements for the executives and leadership, right? This is a product that's going to be particularly appealing to executive, to leadership, and you really need to make sure that they are educated and involved separately from the bulk of the population. And here's one of the reasons why. When you do general webinars for a group of employees, like who are the least likely to join, right? The executives, right? Because they're busy. And because like they think like, hey, if I really need to know something, somebody's going to tell me. So we always have special engagement with the executives and leadership. And that's important because those are going to be the people that are going to buy this in a lot of respects, and they're going to drive high value policies and things of that nature. So we always have special engagements with them, and we have some really specific things that we do with them. And then I think the fourth thing that's real important is you got to have multiple avenues for communication and education. In today's world, not everybody gets their education in the same way, right? Like some people will sit through a 30-minute webinar and other people have to get a 45-second commercial, right? And so you got to have multiple avenues for people to get educated and multiple types of forums for communication and that type of thing. And so we have, 4 or 5 different avenues for each of our clients to utilize to educate and communicate to employees. So a lot of different ways that those things go out. It can't be a one-size-fits-all scenario because not everybody gets their education in the same way in today's world. So we have podcasts, video content, email content, a call center, digital resources, live and recorded webinars, full-length webinars, short webinars, et cetera. We do so many different things to really try to capture that. And so the other things that, in fact, I'll show you some of those guys, some of those engagements. So, our engagements are, really typically tend to be pretty robust. And see, here's one right here. It says Allstate, but the carrier could be anything. It could say Transamerica, it could say Trustmark, it could say MetLife, or it could say Chubb. Like those are really the 5 carriers that have this type of product. And so we have communications that go out that tend to be colorful, eye-catching. There's links that people can click on to take various actions, either to schedule a call or to learn more or to enroll or waive. We want to make it easy for them to enroll or waive, right? Because we want to really be able to get people to take action. And then we also have a series of animated videos that go out to folks throughout the engagement campaign that are on different topics. What is long-term care? And, what does guaranteed issue mean? Who will need to purchase long-term care? Why millennials and Gen Zs are purchasing long-term care. And then beyond that, they are also going to, there's other ones too, like why it's important for executives. And there's a whole series of these that people will have access to throughout the enrollment process. They're going to come out so that to really capture people's attention. And you can see that there's a bunch of different links here for people to click on. Again, they can click to schedule their call. They can click here for more information. They can click here to enroll or waive. And so there's a lot of resources like that for people to utilize. And then we have a personal quoting tool that we utilize as well. And Chelsea, I'm going to try to make sure this pulls up for me correctly. Chelsea, can you now see that on the screen? Just confirm for me.
I can, yes.
Okay. So folks, like we have this go out to folks at the beginning of enrollment, right? It's like, get your personal quote here, right? It's like, comes out, right away. And then they can kind of, play around with it. So like for me, I'm 53. So I'll put in my age here. And let's say I assume I'm going to have a claim at, or not assume, but let's say I project to have a claim at age 80, and then let's say I want to choose a higher benefit amount, 200,000. Like it'll show me what my monthly premium is here. It'll show me, after I've had the plan up until age 80, how many total premiums I've paid, what my total, benefit that could still be out there is. I still have 400,000 of LTC and 200,000 of life benefits. So I still have $600,000 of, total benefit out there, what my monthly LTC benefit is. And then I can play around with it. Like, let's say I'm a 30-year-old, I can go here to, I'm a 30-year-old. And so this is really helpful for engaging the younger folks, right? They can see this and they can say, okay, let's say I keep the plan for 50 years. I keep it until I'm 80. Okay, my monthly premium is only 153. I will have paid $91,000 in premium. up till that point, but I still have $600,000 worth of benefit out there as well, right? And so, and this is for a $200,000 benefit, or let's say maybe I only want 100,000. So then it'll update it for me. Now I've only spent $45,000 in premium, but I have $300,000 in total benefits still available at age 80, right? And so these tools are really key for people in terms of having people really be able to understand, how the programs work. So with that said, let me just pause there. I'm gonna pull my screen back up, but let me pause there to see if anyone has any questions. Are there any questions thus far? And Chelsea, do we have anything in chat?
Mike, yes, we do have one in chat. Erica would like to know, would this work with Employee Navigator?
Yeah, so the carriers will tell you it will work with Employee Navigator, okay? And it will, to some extent, work with Employee Navigator, but Navigator's not going to be able to handle the EOI process. Navigator doesn't handle well policy changes in subsequent years and things of that nature. So I always recommend to clients not to put it in Navigator or Ease. We do it. We always do it on a platform called Solarix. And once the client kind of understands the explanation for that, then they're usually okay with that. So will it work with Navigator? To some extent, yes. Perfectly, no. Okay, Erica, that's the best answer I can give you on that. Okay. What other questions do we have today, folks? Does anybody have any other questions for us today? Anyone at all? Okay, folks, let me just pull up my screen here again on a couple of other things here. I just wanted to go back to a couple of things here. So, folks, what we do here at the VB Shop to help organizations really drive this as a revenue producer for their agencies, we have a very specific program that we utilize. And so what we'll do with your teams is an educational product rollout where we'll educate your teams on how these plans work, but we're also going to provide the teams with product introduction emails that can go out to clients. We're going to co-host educational webinars for your clients. And then we can also do cross-sell sessions with your account managers, producers, consultants to identify the best potential candidates. We're going to help manage that pipeline, and then, of course, handle the whole due diligence and recommendation process, providing our preferred block underwriting offers. And then, of course, when it's time to present to the client, we'll conduct those decision maker presentations along with you. And then once the client says go, that's where our team really, really stands out. We have a dedicated case management staff that is just very senior. They do a great job. Wow, I lost my PowerPoint there. So anyway, let me stop sharing here. Sorry about that, folks. So the dedicated case management staff, folks, they're going to be able to provide total case management. So they're going to handle everything from beginning to end with the implementation process. There we go. Sorry about that, folks. They're going to handle everything from beginning to end with the implementation process. So they're going to create an implementation timeline, create the engagement campaign that we talked about. They're going to oversee the platform setup, conduct the employee education webinars. We're going to provide access to our long-term care benefit education call center, provide the client and broker with daily status updates, audit the carrier invoices, provide ongoing billing and claims service, and conduct an annual open enrollment every year. So we handle that whole process. And guys, this is really part of what separates us. We get fantastic feedback from the consultants that we work with on the transparency and thoroughness of our employee or of our case management team. And that's really where the rubber hits the road and creates these fantastic results. So with that said, folks, I will wrap it up and just see if anyone has any further questions. And we will just provide, any further questions for anyone. Does anyone have any further questions for us today?
Mike, we have one additional question in the chat. Mike would like to know, does age and wage census info play a big part in your interest in a case? Appears that you work well in both white collar and blue collar settings and demonstrate success in both.
Yeah, I think the only thing, it doesn't necessarily impact our interest in the case. I mean, I think the main thing that we are really looking for is I'm probably not going to do well in a scenario where everybody um, is very low paid, right? So as long as we have middle income to upper income, then we're going to probably do well with a case. I'm probably not necessarily going to do well with, say, a restaurant group outside of maybe the management staff. You know what I mean? So it's really just those industries where it's extremely low paid, probably not going to be the best market. But outside of that, we're pretty much going to do pretty well across the board. Any other questions I can help answer at all? Anyone? Okay, folks, let me, just going to share the contact information one more time. So just in case you want to reach out, sorry for my technical difficulties today. My screen kept flashing on and off, so I apologize for that. But here is our contact information if anyone wants to reach out to us to talk about a specific case. And remember, this is all we do, Life with LTC. So we have a very specific process for it. Hopefully, you'll all have some clients that you want to talk to, and we're here to help in any way we can. Really appreciate you taking the time today, and thank you so much for joining us.